Okay, so let's talk about Barbarian because this movie insane and we just have to discuss it. We're going to be spoiling it here because as you can read from the title, ending explained. So I don't want to hear no why'd you ruin the ending or why'd you talk about the plot because we have to talk about the plot to get to the ending. So let's not hear it today. So anyways, I will have a spoiler-free review. So if you want to check that out, it will be out today as well. And then you can come back to this video. If you don't care about spoilers and just want to know what the whole mystery is, stick around because we're going to keep on going with it. So before we get further into it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell because we're on the road to 25,000 subscribers. We are less than 800 from there, so super excited about that. But let's talk about Barbarian, which is quickly becoming, I think, in my top 5 of the year. So this movie is directed by Zach Cregger, who is a alumni of The Whitest Kids You Know, R.I.P. Trevor, because yeah, if you ever watched The Whitest Kids You Know and all of that, you probably heard about the news of Trevor passing, and that was such a big thing, honestly, in my childhood growing up as well, watching that show on Fuse and all of that. So I really am excited though that Zach Cregger, who came from that show, is now doing this movie, which I hope and I believe in my heart deep down it is going to go pretty big just because of everything it does that feels so fresh and new and those twists and turns. So what is this movie about? This movie basically follows a young woman named Tess who is renting an Airbnb, and it turns out that her Airbnb actually got double booked with a guy named Keith, who is played by Bill Skarsgard. And now we have Tess, played by Georgina Campbell, sort of wondering, is this a safe move for me to stay with this guy that I have no idea about him at all? And he seems a little weird, but he seems a little nice at the same time. Finally, she decides to just stay the night since there is no other hotel, and pretty much just wonders, am I going to survive this night? And this, I'm going to tell you right from the beginning, I did not trust Bill Skarsgård. I was like, this guy is doing something sketch. There's got to be something more to him, just the way he looks and all of that, especially because he says he's not a bad guy. It's just like, it's all the tropes and stuff that are thrown in for you. But this movie takes you for a loop because Bill Skarsgård has nothing to do with what's going on here. So one night, Tess actually awakens and she hears a sound coming from the living room, of course, where Keith is staying, and she's staying in the bedroom. Her door's open though, and she had locked it, so she's wondering what is going on here. So she wakes him up, and he's pretty much like, I was just asleep. I did have nothing to do with this. I'm not trusting him at this point either. Next day, she goes to her job that she's actually interviewing for, and she notices that the outside of the neighborhood is very run down, and there's pretty much no one living there. We find out that this is in Detroit. Of course, the history with Detroit and all of that, we could talk about that in a whole other video, but pretty much it's been like that. A lot of ghosts, like neighborhoods and everything where nobody lives there anymore due to the economic fallout, especially with the auto industry. I mean, we could get into it, but this movie really does show all of this. And so Tess is gone to her interview. Her interviewer pretty much tells her to be careful because that's not a neighborhood you really want to stay in and all of that. And she's just, I'll be fine, it's okay. Next day when she arrives, she actually notices that there is something going on that's kind of weird because she's noticing when she goes to the basement that there is a string that opens up a whole new passageway that goes really deep down, and then she finds a room with a bed that has also a camera and bloodstains on it. She gets trapped in the basement because the door like closes on its own, and now she's there wondering what the hell's gonna happen. So mind you, I was over here thinking, okay, Keith lied. This is his house and he's doing something sketch down there, murdering people, whatever. And then Keith shows up and I'm just like, okay, it's gonna happen. And she's telling him about it and she's like, let's get out of here, let's go. He doesn't want to. He wants to see what exactly is going on. And I was like, this guy's tricking her to go down there. But no, he's pretty much saying the truth. He's really curious about it. And I was just like, I am gone. If I see any of that or somebody tells me there's something down there, I don't even want to look at it. I'm out of here. He goes and pretty much gets trapped down there. She goes to try and find him. That's when she notices there's more passageways. And this was just funny to see in the theater with people because it's just hilarious to see more passageway as this sort of thing is happening and you're scared at the same time but you're laughing at the same time. So I really dug that the movie was able to find that balance between humor and horror as well. So really great job to Zach Cregger on that. I really did love that for this. So once she finds Keith down there, he's like on the ground. He's like, you gotta be quiet. Something just bit me. Come here. And I'm just like, he's lying. And then no, he's not lying. A huge like woman like that looks like they've been down there for a long time and have evolved to look like some beast attacks him and kills him. And then cut to black, and it's just like, wait, are we done? Because it started to play music. I was like, that's it, that's the movie, credits rolling all. We meet a new character named AJ, who's played by Justin Long, and I'm just like, Justin Long is definitely gonna have a revival after, especially hearing about Tusk 2 possibly in the works. I'm just like, this guy's gonna have some stuff pretty soon. So Justin Long plays AJ, who is like this actor of sorts, and he's dealing with these allegations on one of his co-stars, and so he's like selling his properties. We come to find out that one of his properties is actually that Airbnb where we saw Tess and Keith and that woman that we don't know what is just yet. We don't know what is. Okay, let's keep going. So he goes to try and sort of get the things straightened out. He goes to the home, and that's when he notices the luggage and all of that, as well as some of the doors open, and he's wondering what's going on here. Over time, we find out that AJ's a pretty bad guy. He actually did essay the person and all of that, so we primarily see him as somebody who is an asshole, and we at this point are just like, whatever happens to the guys happens. Get this woman over here to get this guy. And so he's pretty much going down into the basement now because he realizes that there's something going on here. And then he quickly sees these passageways that Tess and Keith had found as well. So he's pretty much wondering how he can get more of a buck out of all of this. So he's measuring and everything down there. He sees the room with the bed and the blood and the camera. And you would think that somebody like him or anybody in general would just be like, okay, I'm calling the cops for this. Now he's measuring that room and everything, moving the bed and all of that. He's just trying to see how much money he can get for this house selling it. Now, as he gets deeper and deeper, he finally gets in contact with the woman that's living down there, and she starts chasing him, and eventually he falls into a pitfall. Once he falls into this pitfall, we actually see Tess is down there with him as well, and she's like, you gotta be quiet. We then cut to a flashback, and we know this because they're talking about the Reagan administration and all of that, so pretty much somewhere in the 80s right now, where we see this man who seems to be the original owner of the home, and he's going to buy stuff for a new baby that's on the way. We then quickly realize this guy is not that guy. This guy is a bad guy. He's definitely a killer of sorts, as he is stalking a woman and trying to sort of find ways to get into her home by sort of tricking her of him being a waterman or whatever, checking the water pressure, all of that. He leaves some of her windows open. We know what's going to happen. And then we hear his neighbors saying that they're moving out because of the whole economy and all of that. So we know that this is definitely because of everything that happened in Detroit as well. And he's pretty much like, we're going to stay here. We've been here. We're staying here. And then it cuts back to where we are in the present. So we pretty much know this guy has something to do with what's going down here. Then we cut back to Tess and AJ, who are still down there in that pitfall, and then we see a bottle come through like one of the cracks, and it is the woman trying to feed both of them, and Tess explains that you have to pretend to be her baby or else it's not going to end good for you. And so we see that Tess does drink from the bottle, but AJ refuses to do so. The woman gets mad, pulls AJ out. She's going to pretty much take AJ to feed him herself, and that's going to be more natural, if you know what I mean. And this is the opportunity that Tess has been looking for as she tries to escape. And then we finally see also AJ and the woman. And the woman is like a creature more than a human, due to the fact that I believe they've been down there for so long and they don't really have this whole like human instinct to them. It's more of a wild instinct of them, like an animal of sorts. Tess, however, does manage to escape, and in the movie at the beginning there was a man that was chasing Tess down, telling her to not go into the house. Of course, this was sort of a fake out at the beginning because we thought this man was going to do something to Tess. Turns out he was trying to save her because Tess is able to be saved because this man comes through. Just as she is escaping through the window, the woman tries to grab her, but the man is able to pull her, and he tells her to just go on home, forget about whoever else is down there because that woman is going to come after you once it turns into night. She comes outside and does whatever she does. Tess, however, cannot leave AJ, and she's pretty much like, I gotta save him. Although Tess doesn't know everything that AJ's done, because I think if she knew, I don't think she would be going down there for him. So we eventually see that she does go to the police. The police don't believe her, and they pretty much dismiss her, and so she takes it into her own hands to go down there and try and save him. Once it does turn nightfall, she does get into her car and starts to leave, but then the woman comes out, and I love the scene when the woman just burst out because it was so impactful, scary, and just crazy at the same time. Like, that's the only way I could describe it. Tess ultimately runs the woman into the wall and then goes down there to try and save AJ. So while Tess is going out to try and find the police, AJ does manage to escape the woman because the woman's too busy trying to go get Tess. And then he finds a secret room where he finds the man that we saw in the flashback from the 80s, now really, really old. And then he's pretty much like not able to speak or anything like that. This is when AJ finds some tapes that actually have the man killing different women as they're labeled, like redhead from the gas station, things like that. And so we know what that room was used for. It was for the man to murder these women, and I believe as well SA them, as we find out later in the story. So once we see this happen, the old man grabs a gun and shoots himself because he realizes that AJ apparently has called the police and everything's gonna be like given up. And so AJ is able to leave now with the gun, and Tess goes down there to try and save him. But once Tess is down there, AJ mistakes her for the woman and tries to shoot her. She does get shot, but not really a lethal wound, so they both try to escape. Of course, the cars don't really work no more, and the woman is not stuck in the car as Tess thought when she run her over, so they gotta get out of there quick. Tess does remember where the homeless man, told her he was staying at, and they try to go over there to try and get some shelter for some time. The man is there, and he explains that the man had committed so many acts down there with different women where he pretty much essayed them, and then they gave birth, and then the babies and all of that had babies, and it just created more and more of this incest like hell down there. And so this woman was a product of that, the woman that they see now. And so now the man is like, y'all gotta stay calm, stay here, because out there, she's out there, but in here, she's not gonna come. And as soon as he says that, bursts through the whole wall like some Kool-Aid Man type vibes, kills the man with his arm. Like, she like takes his arm off and just starts whacking him till he's dead. Then the woman chases Tess and also AJ up like this water tower, and AJ's like, you know what, we're not both gonna make it, you're gonna slow her down, and throws Tess off and tells the woman, go get your baby. And in the masterpiece moment, this is cinema right here, the mother, woman, whatever you want to call her, jumps to try and save Tess and ultimately tries to go and get her, and we see both of them fall, and it looked like they both died in my opinion. I thought that at first. AJ goes down there, and as soon as he gets close to them, turns out no, Tess is still alive. So he tries to pick up Tess to try and save her, but it turns out Mom is still alive too, and she just grabs AJ, puts her thumbs through his eyes, and just like rips his head or face, I think that's how it was, and just AJ gone. And now the mama's trying to get Tess up. Tess can't get up, and they have this little tender moment where the mama's like kind of sad because Tess can't go back to the house and all of this because of her injuries. Tess at the same time reaching for a gun, and then ultimately shoots the mama, and it's over. Tess ultimately leaves, and that's how our movie ends. What an ending. What a movie. Well, entirely. I mean, tell me about how much of this movie was so amazing, right? From beginning to end, I think it had some of the best pacing we've seen in a horror movie in a while. I know people are comparing it to Malignant. This is completely different from Malignant in my opinion, because I think that this one really, from the beginning to the end, the tone and everything never changed, and it just continued to sort of have this like grandeur effect where it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and by the end you're just wondering, I needed to see more of the story. So I really did dig it for that. I will have a spoiler-free review because I do want to get into some of the other things like the music and stuff. This is just mainly about the story, so stay tuned for that spoiler-free review. Should be out today as well if you want to hear more of my thoughts on like the directing and the music and all of that, as well as the acting. I just wanted to go over the story because it was crazy. I needed to say it in my head again because just how crazy it was. And so let me know what you thought about that ending. This woman, as I said, was definitely the way they were due to everything that had happened with the father being this killer who essayed his victims as well, having kids, and then those kids and all of that incest that started to brew down there, and them never really being out into humanity, and this man who was just evil. It just, all of that boiled up, and this is what it created at the end of the day. And I think that this story as well being told in a perspective, so I think that it was very much so told well, and I think everything about it was just like great. So I'm excited to see what comes next after from this director, Zach Cregger. As I said, this one's great, and I think this is definitely one of those movies that you just have to check out for sure. So let me know your thoughts and opinions if you checked out Barbarian. What do you think about it? Make sure that you also hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We do have a podcast episode dropping today, as well as our spoiler-free review and a video on American Horror Stories as well. So make sure you have notification bells on so you know when those videos drop. But as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions. I'll see all of you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.